So, throughout my life, anytime I would look up a list of the best TV shows of all time, there's a certain amount of shows that you will see in most people's lists. Like The Sopranos, usually going to be top 5. Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, maybe. One of these shows that I would always see, every single time, not in the top 5, but somewhere on this list, was The Americans. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, obviously this is a great show. Best of all time? I'm not sure, because no one in the real world ever talked about it. So it was really just like, the internet loved The Americans. It's kind of like Homeland. I've never met a single person in my entire life that has ever watched Homeland. But Homeland is always on a top 10, top 20 best TV shows of all time list. So, got Disney Plus one day, and I was like, oh, The Americans. Let's check it out. Let's see if it really is one of the best shows of all time. You know, a year later, just finished the finale, and I have thoughts. Is it one of the best TV shows of all time? No, it's not. There's a lot wrong with The Americans. But at the same time, it might have one of the best finales of all times, or like maybe even final seasons of all time. There's a lot to love. So I just want to record some raw thoughts on this show into a video of sorts. Okay, so is it one of the best shows of all time? No, but the fucking acting is great. The writing is great. Is this a good show? Yes. Are there moments where this is a great show? Absolutely. Are there incredible episodes? Hell yeah, there are. There is a lot of stuff to love about this show, to the point where I would recommend it. You just have to be aware of a few things. And this is kind of strange now that I'm saying it, because I'm gonna just there's no point in selling a show that I'm about to spoil the shit out of. But I guess if you've seen The Americans, you might agree with what I'm saying here. This show can be very uninteresting sometimes. And at one point for an entire season. Season 5 of The Americans is so bad, I actually wanted to stop watching, but I couldn't, and I was too uninterested to continue watching. But something with my head is I can't move on to another TV show at the same time until I finished the one I'm currently on. So I would just die putting on an episode of season 5 of The Americans, and just I couldn't do it some days. It was so uninteresting. I fucking hate season 5 so much. But I'm gonna start in order because I like doing things in order somewhat. Season 1 is actually great. Genuinely, the first 15 minutes of episode 1, probably enough to get most people invested in watching the show. It's genuinely amazing. It starts off with Fleetwood Mac Task. The whole chase mission that they open that episode with is fucking great. I was hooked right away. The song is incredible. The fight scene is really well done, surprisingly so. And I have a lot to say about the fight scenes, or lack thereof, in this show. But for the point of season 1, I have no complaints. Great acting. The arguments between Philip and Elizabeth, especially when... I think this is on the street after there's the fake kidnapping to test their loyalty, where he turns, he's like, I'm happy here. The drama between the two is fucking excellent. The only bad thing about season 1 is it's not even bad. There's just a lot of sex scenes that are kind of awkward and drawn out to the point of you just wanted to get people engaged with some titties, maybe? I don't know. It's not even good sex scenes. It's just long, drawn out, set to a classic song sex scenes. Some of them could have been cut, I'm gonna be honest. They do work for the purpose of the Martha storyline. It's literally just Philip and Elizabeth bang a lot, and it's God, what am I watching a porno here? But outside of that, season 1 has great drama, great acting, great action. Honestly, one of the best first seasons of a show that I've seen. Not that it makes this one of the best shows of all time, because as I said, it's not. But season 1 is fucking great. And season 2 is also great. I'd honestly say season 2 was just as good as season 1. A few standout episodes especially, the one that's sort of about Philip's dilemma with religion. I'm looking at it right now, so what's it called? I think it's called Martial Eagle. I think that's the one. Banger episode. You have the Arcady Agent Gad meeting. You have just a bunch of great scenes between Philip and the family. The ending where Philip confronts Pastor Tim. Awesome scene. Matthew Rhys in this fucking show. I had never seen Matthew Rhys in anything. I knew of him because of the show. But, Kerry Russell was the real highlight. So, it's through season 1, I was okay, this guy's a good actor. But by the time I'm done season 3, I'm like, this guy is clearly the best part of the entire show. Like, no offense to Elizabeth, I feel like Elizabeth is a more unpopular character, and I haven't even been on the internet to look at discussion yet. I know for a fucking fact, based off of knowing how the internet works, people did not like Elizabeth in the final season. I bet. Because she was on a killing spree. I bet. I just know that people are like, she's a bitch. They're both terrible people. They're both hypocrites. And we'll get into that more. I guess Elizabeth being the one that wasn't naturally in conflict at first with sort of her love for America versus Russia and country. She was sort of steadfast home country. So I don't know, Philip is always going to be a bit more interesting because he has that back and forth. Like even in the first season where he's like, I like it here. I fit in here. It's just great drama. And that keeps up for all of season 2 as well. Philip's like slightly more interesting than Elizabeth. No hate to Elizabeth. The only problem I had with season 2 was right at the end. The kid was a sleeper agent thing that killed his whole family. I did not buy it. I'm sure other people didn't buy it either. I sat there and I was like I sort of got what they were going for, and then the immediate transition into trying to set Paige up, I was like, okay, this is realistic. I'm sure they would eventually want the kids to have Russian training. They're not just gonna grow up American. But I just did not buy it with that kid. And the scene where Philip confronts Arcady in the bookstore was amazing. The show does this not enough, where there's more... Okay, that's not the right way to say it. The show at that point had built up enough of a gap between these, I guess, characters, to the point when they do interact, it always got like a, oh fuck. Even Philip talking to Arcady and threatening him, low-key, was enough of a, okay, shit's like he's taking this seriously. It was great. This is later a problem, as it doesn't do it enough, and these characters and storylines don't interact enough, especially in season 5, where they barely do at all, and season 5 sucks. And then bam, season 6, because everyone always said... I know I said I haven't looked at discussions about this on the internet before, but I was so in the midst of my hatred and boredom of season 5 that I did a little Reddit, just a season 5 Reddit search, just to see if anyone else hated this shit as much as I did. And I saw one comment that was like, stick with it, season 6 is so much better than season 5. That person was correct. But they're like, it has a completely different vibe to season 5. And I was like, interesting, what's that gonna be like? What it really is just these storylines actually connect with each other. I'm like, wow, it really wasn't that hard. Episode 1, Borov finally talks to Philip, and you're like, oh wait, this is interesting now, because this guy that we've been following around for like 4 seasons is finally talking to the main character. It's like, this could have happened in season 5. Like, it's not that different of a show in season 6. It's just, there's no wasted scenes. Even the stuff with the painting lady, like the handicapped woman that is the artist, like that is at least tied to Elizabeth and the rest of her story. Like, some of the shit's happening in season 5 was so pointless in hindsight, now that I've finished this final episode. Like, they had on 2 separate occasions, Elizabeth meets a dreamy fucking himbo who loves to eat pussy and pleasures her, and she's torn. I guess they like soft launched it in season 3 or 4 with the bellhop guy, and then they really had it all season 5, and then they just dropped it. Like, I've jumped ahead again because I hate season 5, because it's literally just rehashed themes, and they've since gotten rid of every single interesting plot. But again, we'll go back. Season 3 was actually the first time I quit the show, but season 3 actually, in hindsight, is really good. And once I kept watching season 3, I was like, damn, why did I stop? I think I got caught on like episode 3. There was a particularly uninteresting stretch. You know, that happens sometimes. And you'll just stop watching a show for 5 months because it just wasn't grabbing me. I had no interest to continue. And then 1 episode later, I was like, oh, season 3 is great as well. Because of the Paige thing. The whole Breaking Bad exposure you knew had to happen at some point. The liar revealed. And I thought the way that they built this up was actually brilliant. Paige not being an idiot and picking up on certain things and eventually coming out being like, are we from another country? Like, what is going on here? Tell me the fucking truth. Brilliant. One of the best scenes in the entire show. And that whole drama really took season 3, especially in the finale. The finale to season 3 one of the best season finales. Okay, maybe The Americans is one of the best shows ever, because the season 6 finale is brilliant, and so is the season 3 finale. The whole Reagan speech intertwined with Philip's mental breakdown, saying, like, trying to actually have an honest conversation with Elizabeth right as Paige is telling Father or Pastor Tim that they're Russian. Like, man, that was fucking well done. Just very well edited. I had chills. I was like, season 4. I need to get to season 4 right now. But season 4 let me down a little bit. And that's because, and this is completely unfounded, and maybe I can't even prove it, but this show wanted to be The Sopranos. What do you mean by that? Wanted to be The Sopranos. They're nothing alike. Well, they're kind of alike. What I mean by wanted to be The Sopranos is The Sopranos, which I had also watched like 2-3 years ago, because it was always number 1 on everyone's best shows of all time list. What The Sopranos did a lot was it would end a lot of its storylines in a really purposefully anticlimactic way. Like a lot of the time. And people say that's the point because, spoilers for The Sopranos, Chris has this big moment where he's fully against Tony. Fully had it with Tony's shit. And you think, holy shit, Chris versus Tony is going to be the end of The Sopranos. But actually, the next episode, Chris is right falling back in line, gets into a car accident, and then Tony kills him. And that is the kind of... It didn't play out... Actually, to borrow a line from The Sopranos, it won't be cinematic. A lot of the ways that it would end its storylines wasn't cinematic. Like Jackie Jr., for example. Popped in the back of the head, and we move on. And it's the character conflict that comes from that they focus on every time. And sometimes it doesn't work in The Sopranos either. Like, the Ralphie story, even though the fight that does end that situation is fantastic, the way that they wrapped it up itself was not satisfying. And the way that the Dr. Melfi story wrapped up was also not satisfying. But The Sopranos done this shit way better than The Americans does, I will tell you that, because The Americans pissed me off with how many times they tried to pull the old, like, dark realism, this is, not a fairy tale way of getting these situations to wrap up. The whole Martha shit was so terribly handled. And yes, her scene in season 5 with, what's-his-face? Oh, Philip. That fucking piece of shit. Gabriel. Fuck Gabriel. Fuck Gabriel. He was no Margot Martindale, that's for sure. Her scene with Gabriel in season 5 was actually great. But the whole drama, so much drama in season 2 and 3 around the Martha situation is that this is going to fall apart and blow up in his face. Like, it's very gripping TV how he manipulates this girl. But eventually, she's gonna figure it out. And when she figures it out, it's fucking great. And that scene where he reveals himself and he takes off his disguise, oh my god. What did they do with it? They did The Sopranos. They just get Martha out of there, and Stan fails again, and everything's fine. To be fair, there is fallout from the Martha plot with Philip's reaction to it. I do like the argument they have near the end of season 4 about that she wasn't just a client, and the whole conflict of Elizabeth thinking he cares too much and tying it to Est and all that. Like, that was great, but it feels like there should have been more to come out of that whole Martha plot than just, like, a little bit more development for Philip. I don't know. Not that I needed a big action set piece, but they should have done more with it. Like, back to the status quo. And you do that for just the Martha thing. All right, whatever. It was disappointing. But hey, maybe there's other things to carry the drama. They do the same with the Pastor Tim and Paige plotline. It's not bad that Paige was indoctrinated into the family business. That's not the problem. But they had all of this drama and they wasted it. The second they find out that Paige told Pastor Tim, and it's like the start of the episode where Philip turns to Elizabeth and he's like, do you want to kill him? I was so glued to my screen because things were moving. But they completely shit on that storyline by just turning Pastor Tim. Everything's good. He's sort of threatened into it for the sake of Paige. Paige is sort of cool with it and starts to get trained into this young spy training program. That's fine, but they should have kept the threat of their being revealed up. They have that episode where his wife worries and threatens them that she's going to reveal. That was wasted because they go right back to the status quo. And then eventually, in season 5 or whatever, they just ship off Pastor Tim. No consequences. It's all good. That's very Sopranos. Like, just a very flat, dark, showing real humanity-esque ending for that plot. I'm like, well, then we shouldn't have wasted all our time on it. Or, like, not to say they should have just taken the easy way out and have them kill Pastor Tim, but they just had this source of conflict, and then they just slowly chipped it away until it wasn't really that exciting anymore, which they did with Martha. And then you've left with season 5, where it's just a holding pattern, where it's Paige knows, but Paige is sort of complying. Pastor Tim knows he's complying. Philip his mental breakdown was paused, essentially, which I also hated. You have this season 3 finale thinking that this guy is really done. He can't keep doing this shit. Elizabeth is a bit more able to. But I think the way that they did this whole season-long build-up into just them taking a break, that could have been condensed. And I think it should have been, because season 5 sucks, as I've said. Season 5 sucks ass. If you had somewhere along the line, if you had, 3 to 4 episodes of season 5, and then the 4th or 5th episode, you do that conversation that they ended season 5 with, where Elizabeth says, I think you should take a break. Maybe you do another time skip, and then you do the start of season 6. And I don't know, they should have changed things up a bit sooner. Season 5 was just a waste of time. Nothing changed. Philip was stagnated. Elizabeth didn't really develop much. The whole Stan plot is a waste of time. The Agent Gad, oh my god, Agent Gad? Rewind. Agent Gad, one of the best characters in the show. I was a big fan of him. I love when there are good bosses in TV shows. I had just watched Justified, and also great boss in Justified. I don't remember his name, but he was great. So did The Americans. Agent Gad was great. The scene where he confronts Arcady. I don't know, he was a good boss. He was reasonable. He was willing to listen to Stan. He wasn't an idiot. And I understand that realistically, you had to have some consequences for people continuously failing to get these Americans, and all these plans kept getting foiled. So Agent Gad had to get fired. Why did they do what they did? Why did they write him out like that, though? He goes on vacation, gets confronted by some Russian goons. They're honestly being pretty reasonable with him. He rushes out a window and fucking falls on a piece of glass and dies? What the hell? What was the point of that? Did the actor piss someone off in the writing room? I genuinely have no idea. I was like, what? Was that supposed to make me feel something? Because he hadn't been in the show for a little bit, because he had been fired, 4 episodes prior. What the hell? Season 4, what the hell? Just killing him like that. Oh, wrap up a loose end. And then it never really comes back into the picture. Okay, I don't have much else to say about the Agent Gad thing. So I'm just gonna jump over to another talking point I had. What happened to the fights in this show? And I've waited 20 minutes into talking about the writing so that I can start being a little 12-year-old talking about the fight scenes. Because no, this show didn't need fight scenes. The drama and the writing and the acting was good enough. But I cannot help but notice that they cut down the action in this show. Season 1 had good action. Like, I still remember episode 2 when the brother of that one person, I don't know, some of the details are fuzzy, but I do remember that brother attacking Philip in the apartment, and the fight that they had was really well done. Like, obviously not realistic, but good kind of realistic action. Like, they're using actual martial arts techniques, and the way that Philip broke that guy's arm was pretty fucking brutal. It's not like I'm a fucking mouth breather that needs to have a hand-to-hand combat scene, but it's very noticeable that season 1 had a ton of action, and then by the time you're in season 4, there's no action. And I just, like, at the time of season 4, most of the storylines were still exciting enough that it didn't break the show. But by the time you're in season 5 and there's nothing grabbing you, you're like, come on, okay. we could at least have a little throwdown, because they've proven that they can do good fight scenes. And they just stopped doing them because they wanted to go lean into the character conflict. I get it, but then the character conflict started to be uninteresting, so I don't know, throw me a bone. Give me another Philip fight scene. I don't understand. I'm definitely going to look into it. I'm sure there's a reason. Maybe they thought the fight scenes were just like a season 1 thing you had to have because, like, oh, people won't care about a spy show that's just Russian politics. Well, you're right, because eventually that shit got really boring. Okay, I'm not. They didn't have to have a Stan versus Philip fight. And the scene, whoop, all the way to the finale, the scene where Stan confronts them, that's one of the best scenes in the whole show. I was on the edge of my seat. Did it come way too late? Yeah, it kind of did. Should there have been more to it? Yeah, there definitely fucking should have been, because they hit all the points in the conversation. You know, you're my best friend, you made my life a joke. Like, I can't complain about the scene, but I wanted more of that drama. And season 6 is still fantastic, because every episode there was a progression of the threat. And the actual stakes behind the summit wasn't just another season 1 episodic, you have to get this thing to do this, to speak to this person, to plant this piece of information. Like, I used to tell myself when I would be watching, like, that doesn't really matter. It's how it affects Philip and Elizabeth that's what really matters, which is why it was okay for some of the things episodically in season 2. The thing of the week we have to go grab was fine, because, again, their reaction was what mattered. Again, another reason why season 5 sucks is because the whole season-wide MacGuffin was the wheat plant thing, which did lead to some ethical conversation with the concept of starvation and how both Elizabeth and her dreamy himbo think that what they're gonna do is use this for supply and growth when it's actually gonna be used as a weapon, blah, blah, blah. That itself wasn't interesting. But season 6, it's relevant. It doesn't just mean nothing. The whole act, or the whole concept of the summit, and Claudia's perspective of these people don't want they're gonna forget about all our struggle. That was great, and that was interesting. And again, Borov was involved. It wasn't hard to make all this stuff compelling again. Which again, why were they so insistent on all of it being irrelevant and a waste of time in season 5? Next up, this is sort of an aside. Did something happen with the actress that played Stan's wife? Because in season 3, the whole Est thing, her and Philip had better chemistry than Philip and goddamn Elizabeth. That whole subplot was actually wasted potential, because those two had great chemistry. Did they just use it for a bit of conflict? Because maybe they knew that Stan wasn't going to find out anytime soon, so, you know, have a bit of a, are you sleeping with my wife drama in there? Sure, but it didn't go anywhere. And I can't help but think, damn, there was a lot of potential with Philip and that lady who I don't remember her name, but she was good. What else? The whole Julie Garner plot, I feel like by the time the show was over, even they were sick of it. I mean, she doesn't show up for like 7 episodes, and then you're like, oh, he's with her again. I guess he's been doing this and courting her off screen the whole time. The show kind of lost track of a few of those things where you had to suspend your disbelief a little bit. Be like, when did they have the time to continue doing this? Like, it got real crazy in season 5 with the whole fake family thing. That's another storyline that didn't really go anywhere. Like, yes, it did in the final scene when they tell Tuan that he needs a partner. And that contrasted well with her immediately going to Philip and saying, you should do this by yourself, or I can do this by myself. But was that all that screen time to that plot for that? You didn't need it. Could have cut it out. Again, season 5, you could have cut that shit out. A lot of those, I've come back full circle. I've remembered a few other plot lines that were ended anticlimactically. The whole Soo Yin, I'm sorry that was not her name, the Korean lady, Yi Sung, that was like her and Elizabeth as friends. I really bought it. And what Elizabeth had to do, the whole husband framing thing, was brutal. So I had no issues with that plot. But I feel like Elizabeth had a few of these little like side gal pal things. The one with the former addict and her husband that found out. What was the point of that? A few of these plots that Elizabeth has with these friends really just ended with her killing them and then forgetting all about it. And I realized you couldn't have all of these come up, nor do I need every story to work that way, where it's like every plot point wraps up in one big climactic reveal, and it all came to this. That's not what I'm saying. There is fine to have some wrap-ups or unexpected, well, that's it. But, I don't know, a few of them I didn't really vibe with. I just felt like they were a bit unnecessary. Or at least, Elizabeth didn't learn much from it. So you look back and you're like, well, bit of wasted time then, huh? Bit of wasted time. The fucking plot with the son, where we spend all this time watching this boy escape and make his way to America to meet his dad. He never gets to meet his dad because fuck-ass Gabriel is like, sorry, it cannot be done. I'm sorry. And maybe you could say that is what influenced Gabriel to leave. Like, so it wasn't entirely pointless, maybe, but he just goes back to Russia, doesn't get killed or punished, it seems, for, illegally escaping, which seemed a bit strange. And then they reveal at one scene in season 6 that Philip has a brother. I don't know, maybe we knew about the brother already, but you just see the brother eating dinner, and they talk about him, and that's the last scene you see with them. I was like, what was the point of that? Come on. I loved the Nina storyline throughout season 1, season 2. Also, this is just things I loved. Stan's maybe Russian, maybe not Russian girlfriend. That was excellent. I love that they did not tell you, because I had a thought that the cliche way to do it was she saves Philip and Elizabeth at the end and reveals herself to be a Russian spy and helps them out. I really thought that was what they were going to do. So the choice that they did take with we don't know and Stan doesn't know and he just watches her while she sleeps, that was good shit. I was really happy with that. I love the look. Like, I feel like certain TV shows like The Sopranos will have a scene that people are going to analyze long after the show's over. Like, what did that mean? And the Americans' equivalent was that look of Renee looking at their house as the FBI's there. Like, she definitely was a Russian spy, but I thought her look that she gave was just enough. It was just subtle enough that maybe she's not. I was really impressed with that. I like that stuff. Season 6 in general, great season. Kind of makes up for season 5, but it just pisses me off because I'm like, well, season 5 could have been interesting like season 6. It didn't all have to fall apart in season 5. You just could have kept up the interesting drama, is all I'm saying. That's the last time I'm going to talk about season 5. Probably not, but fuck season 5. But yeah, season 6, great. And also was the closest this show came to feeling like The Sopranos. I am bringing up The Sopranos a lot for a show that's, again, very different. But The Sopranos' final season had a very similar vibe. That sort of, the good times are over. People are flipping to the cops all the time. Everyone's miserable. Everything feels like it's going to just hit the fan at all times. This was very much the same vibe in the final season of The Americans. It wasn't just great for the consistent week to week, the consistent episode to episode mattering and movement of the plot. It was just the vibes. The vibes of season 6 are great. And I only have a few complaints with how they really wrapped everything up. Henry, I felt like Henry maybe they wanted to write out of the show because they didn't think he was a good enough actor, or maybe they didn't want to reuse the same plot thread of how Paige found out. Because the whole, he's really smart and we just didn't know, that's fine enough on its own. Because, you could buy that. They genuinely did not spend time with him. So it's believable that he's just like, hey, yeah, you didn't notice, but I was good at math the whole time. But the private school element, it just felt like a reason to get him out of the picture. They didn't want to bring him in until things had fully dissolved. That's fine. They wrote him out with the private school thing. That's fine. He's now a star athlete. Okay, bit of a stretch, but the actor hit puberty, so sure. But then you don't wrap that up. You don't actually show him finding out what happened. Stan goes to be his father figure, and I do like that Stan's time with Henry as a result of them not being around is really the thing that saved them in the first place, because Philip just had to appeal to Stan's already existing fatherly love for Henry. So to say you need to be the one to look out for him is 100% the thing that saved them. So I like that. But you needed a conversation. I can only think that Henry's actor wasn't good enough to sell the scene, because they had to have written something. They had to have written a scene where Stan actually tells Henry, and you don't just have music playing to cover up the lack of an actual resolution, which that show does a lot, actually. Tangent number 7. This is a segment I like to call, is it a good montage, or is it just a really good song? And the Americans tries and fails at this on many occasions, and it also does succeed. But what I mean is, they will very frequently abuse the whole random events happening. We're just slowly looking at shots of characters looking into windows, or driving cars, or looking a bit concerned. And we have it set to one of the greatest rock songs of our generation. You know, we've got a Beatles song, like we've got Fleetwood Mac, we've got banger after banger. And I will say, I've found some incredible music through this show. Like, so many great songs are in this show. They start with Tusk. It's incredible. And sometimes the editing is going with this, or you're seeing something relevant to the inner turmoil that these characters are going through, and the song is lining up. Like the With or Without You in the finale is perfect, and it's good editing, and it's a good montage. Some of these are just, we have the rights to a famous song, so you're just gonna sit here for 3 minutes and pretend you're watching a really great piece of television. It's really not that great, and all they're doing is just chilling and walking around, going through the motions. But it's like, oh, we're playing Tears for Fears or Peter Gabriel, so tune in. And again, sometimes it really does work. Like the Games Without Frontiers, War Without Dare, like banger song discovered from this show. Sometimes it works. It's a nitpick, but at my least loving of this show, that's when I was looking at the screen, season 5. I was like, you're trying to trick your audience into thinking this is good TV, and it's not. Anyway, speaking of music, again, this is another really random point of criticism, but the theme song really pissed me off. I really felt, good editing aside, the visuals of the theme song and the intro are fantastic. Whoever edited it did a fantastic job. The song itself, I felt like they thought they had something iconic, or at least they were really trying to make it iconic. Like, it insists upon itself. They really wanted to make it some, like, memorable, iconic Breaking Bad jingle. And it just didn't hit for me all the time. I don't know, there was something missing from that theme song. Even in especially in the 3rd and 4th season, where they tried to add that sort of second reprise part where it was like, dunna, 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 dunna. My, what are you doing? Breaking apart the momentum of the song now? You've made it even worse. And then they figured that they did, and they cut that shit out for season 5. Weirdly enough, the ending song is good, even though it's really just like a slightly different motif of that same jingle, but I did not fuck with the opening, outside of the visuals, which are really good. I love that one guy that's like running out of the truck. He kind of looks like Agent Gad, like in the red jacket. Who's he? What's his story? Oh, I remembered the last thing I wanted to talk about. I think they should have faced some consequences. I think the final episode itself, that's how I got off topic, is I was talking about the Henry resolution. I thought the Paige resolution was well done. Her leaving at the train station was a very important decision. It was her life. But the whole time I'm watching this show, it's made apparent, and I'm sure it's not just me, that Philip and Elizabeth are complete fucking hypocrites. The entire show, the whole, like, this is like The Sopranos. They are very clearly in the wrong and in denial. And they aren't willing to accept or get over certain things born into their upbringing that prevent them from seeing their hypocrisy. They want the best for their children. They know what's best for Paige. These are hypocritical pieces of shit. And they kind of get away with it all. I'm not sure how I sit with that. It's one thing for Stan himself to not get retribution, because that itself was a bold choice, that he lets them go for the sake of Henry. That's one thing. But I don't think there was enough consequences for them after all the horrible things they did for, again, shit that didn't matter. Even Philip in his speech to Stan, where he's saying, I don't really know why I did this. I don't think that was enough. They did so many horrible things, and they get to return home without their family, and the final conversation they have is good, but they shouldn't have got away with it all. Not to say it would have been a more fitting finale for them to get back to Russia and get killed immediately. For all the times they have fucked things up and disobeyed orders and made things worse, they really should have gotten assassinated immediately. And yeah, that maybe would have been a bit goofy or not fitting of the vibe that they wanted to set up. But this bittersweet, no consequences shit is just more Sopranos light, because The Sopranos was like that too. The last episode, which I'll say this, the last episode is not as good as the Americans' last episode, but it's a similar feeling of, we won, and things maybe not so bad. That's not entirely true. There's a depressing aura around that final scene at the deli, where he used to be full, and now it's just Tony and Paulie. There's a deliberate sort of it's over-ness to that final episode. And the final scene definitely being Tony getting killed, spoiler alert. Or you're like my coworker who's like, The Sopranos is the best show of all time, but Tony totally survived at the end. I was like, come on, man. Tony obviously fucking died at the end. But that is the consequence, you know? He gets killed in front of his entire family. So it's like, okay, yeah, he was a piece of shit and he sort of won, but he didn't win. And it's almost darker, the fact that you don't get to see what happens. But you think about it, and you're like, damn, Meadow sees Tony get his brains blown out. Fitting ending. It's an incredible ending. And in the Americans, for all the terrible shit that Philip and Elizabeth do, I don't think they should have got a happy ending or a bittersweet ending. It should have been a we get murdered ending, personally. Maybe I'll think about this differently because I did just finish the show. There may be aspects that were foreshadowed. Maybe there is discussion online that I will look into about why this was a good thing. But personally, I don't know. You killed that old lady. You killed that old lady and you made her take a bunch of sleeping pills until she died in pain? Fuck you, Elizabeth. You hypocrite. Okay, maybe I am a little bit disappointed because some of the best scenes in this entire show were Philip and Elizabeth fighting. Not to dumb it down, but those two actors had such great chemistry. The actual conflict between those two was always good. And Philip betrays Elizabeth. And they didn't do anything with that. They did have a conversation about it, but then I think they needed to wrap the show up. They had to have that Stan progression finally kick in. And how that happened was brilliant. I thought everything about his conversation with Henry being the thing that kicks it off. And the actor in general that played Stan did a fantastic job with like little micro expressions, like a Telltale game. It's like, Stan will remember that. Against Martha, especially at the photocopier. That one sticks in my brain. Like she says something that's just a little bit sus, and he just sort of twitches a little bit. And it's like, oh, I like that. Great job by the actor. I wish someone gave him some fucking moisturizer or goddamn lip balm, but he did a fantastic job. But I felt like there was a lot of drama on the table that wasn't really brought up to the forefront when it really could have. Maybe I'm just grasping at like what could have been, but I genuinely think you could have had 1 to 2 more Philip versus Elizabeth aspects to this final season. That's where I thought it was going. But they sort of beelined like Stan Beeman, they beelined into the, we gotta get the fuck out of here. And then they just get the fuck out of there. So I'm in a weird place, because while I'm fine with where they decided to take things with the finale, I can't ignore the fact that there was missed potential with Philip and Elizabeth. Like, for example, Season 5, not even to shit on Season 5, one of the best scenes in Season 5 is the scene where Philip and Elizabeth go to that woman's house who they are convinced was a Nazi, and she is in complete denial the entire time, and they threaten her at gunpoint, they threaten her husband, and the whole time, you're not sure, just like Philip is not sure, and later Elizabeth, is she telling the truth or not? Elizabeth is pretty convinced, but Philip very frequently says, I don't think it's her, or what if we're wrong? And he puts that out there, and it turns out that she was a Nazi, and that Elizabeth was right. So this whole time, I was like, okay, I love this, because this can fuel Elizabeth not trusting Philip with this job anymore. And she could say to him, we could have, like, if it was up to you, we would have let her go. Like, you have no, or your judgment is broken now. And instead, Philip is the one that decides to quit, which is fine, because it was natural for his character to want to take a break. But nothing was followed up with that mistrust. That whole thing was not followed up on at all, which I thought was a real missed opportunity among many, because, I don't know, I feel like for not even, I was going to say 4 seasons, for the entire show, that is one of the core conflicts, is Elizabeth's dedication to the cause being stronger than Philip's, and their potential, coming and going mistrust of each other. No payoff, really. No satisfying payoff. I didn't want them to just, start trying to Mr. and Mrs. Smith each other, but it just felt a bit strange that you had that so perfectly served up, that he's betrayed her, and she already has doubts with him and his loyalty at various points, and his judgment, and he betrays her, and they don't do any further conflict between those two. And now that I think about it, they did suffer somewhat. Like, when I'm saying they didn't suffer any punishment, that's not true, because of their, it's wrong to say they didn't suffer any losses. Like, the whole idea of having to leave Paige and Henry behind is a loss in that sense. But they should have fucking fought. I'm a little bit mixed on how I feel about that. But the last episode was still really great. Okay, yeah, The Americans. Is it one of the best TV shows I've ever seen? No. Is it still great television? Yes. Season 5 still suck ass? Absolutely. Season 6 still great? Absolutely. Is Matthew Rhys fucking awesome? Yes, he is. Matthew Rhys is the best part about this show. Elizabeth. No disrespect to Elizabeth again. Matthew Rhys made a fan out of me. That's for sure.